Hello and welcome, Exiles. I want to talk about my plans for the Mirage League start, and it has to do with this support right here. Val Sacrifice Support. Support skills repeat an additional time. Support skills have 60% more cast speed, so you do the skill, you cast it twice, and it's kind of fast. And the support skills sacrifice all but one of your life and energy shield. And there's a little bit of quality for increased damage. So this is a very weird support gem, and it has a very, very bad downside. The downside being it basically deletes all of your defensive layer. And if you are going straight to 1 HP, the enemy can walk over and one tap you. Now, there is, I believe, one very good way to work around this. Well, technically, there's two, but I'm going to talk about the one that I think is a lot more applicable in most cases, which has to do with a item called Dissolution of the Flesh. It's this unique jewel, which I have somewhere in my tree, and I totally remember where I put it. No, I don't remember where I put it. I have it somewhere. There it is. Dissolution of the Flesh. Removes all your energy shield. Life that would be lost by taking damage is instead reserved until you take no damage for 2 seconds. This works with this support gem for one very specific reason. It's because the die condition is not as predicated on your life number being 1, it's predicated on your life being reserved. So for example, when you go into a zone and you take damage, I'll try to do this in an Act 9 zone to showcase this real quick. You go into a zone and you take damage. Now I have blood barrier, so I'm just going to out heal whatever damage these guys are dealing. So like, and I'm blocking a lot, so they're not going to deal enough damage, but I'm going to take off blood barrier just so we can showcase what's happening here. You'll see my life number gets reserved. I have really, really good block. Let me check off my shield. That should help. Okay, yeah. So you see my life number gets reserved, and then if I don't take damage for 2 seconds, it gets unreserved. Now the thing is, this is completely unrelated to my actual life number. So like if I have all my life spent down here, you'll see when they hit me, they reserve up here, and it doesn't matter how much red life I actually have. Now, the key here is, if we're sacrificing all of our life down to 1, we would normally be 1 hit away from death. But with Dissolution of the Flesh, the enemy still has to deal 20,000 of our life damage to reserve all the life and then kill us. So that's why Dissolution is one of the ways you can use this without being put on your deathbed. Now, the way I intend to use this support gem is actually, I've been looking over the Vaal skill list, and I've thought about a few that sound pretty good, and the one I'm most excited about is actually Vaal Blade Vortex. I was looking at the Vaal skill list, and I was looking for a support or a skill that A, would benefit from an additional cast, because the big benefit of this support is that it gives you +1 repeat, right? This repeat is the biggest, most important part of this line. It gives you 2 procs of a Val skill for the price of 1. And number 2, I needed a skill with some level of duration. You could go for like a punchy, hard-hitting skill where you just try to one-shot the enemy. But the thing is, with some of the stuff I'm going to talk about later, it's kind of important to have a Val skill that has some sort of duration mechanic to it, something where it lasts a long time. So obvious contenders that work with last a long time and have a duration mechanic, Val Cold Snap, Val Righteous Fire, these are skills that benefit where they'll last an entire duration doing damage, but they don't benefit from the additional repeat, whereas Vaal Blade Vortex is a skill that A, has a pretty long duration where it's doing damage over this entire duration, and B, additional casts of it do additional damage. You don't get 2 stacks of Val Righteous Fire, but if you have 2 Vaal Blade Vortexes out, they will both be hitting the enemy simultaneously. Now, specifically, you'll notice I am thinking about doing this as a Gladiator, actually. And the plan is, hopefully I can sell you on this, but it's to use the really powerful 2-point Lucky Block node, which is insane defensive, basically smoothness or feels goodness, especially when applied to Dissolution builds. Dissolution's normally a situation that can feel pretty clunky or bad. You have this chip damage come in, you're slowly dying over time, and it feels bad. This block, where you just avoid 90% of all damage, there will be situations where you're getting hit by multiple enemies. You can just stand still. You're AFKing multiple enemies. They're all hitting you, and there can still go a 2-second time frame where you don't get hit and your Dissolution recovers because you have such efficient damage avoidance with the Lucky Block. Next up, I am planning to use one of my favorite Bloodline Ascendancy's Corruption's Embrace, and this is for two very potent reasons. Now, reason number one is Shepherd of Souls. This keystone right here, it gives this benefit: 80% less Vaal soul cost, and every time you use a Vaal soul, it gets 100% increased cost within the past 8 seconds. So the thought process here is it gives us a huge less cost multiplier. And the idea is I can spam a bunch of Vaal Blade Vortexes all at once with this high cast speed with the repeat, get a bunch of Vaal Blade Vortexes in the air, and then I have a duration where they're doing damage. And then once this 8 seconds rolls over, since when I procced all of those, which I can make the Vaal Blade Vortex last that long, I then can reproc something like a Soul Ripper to get all my Vaal Souls back, and then I can proc a bunch again. Normally, with Vaal Blade Vortex, it is a 30 soul per use, can store 2 uses. So you have 60 souls total, and you could proc this twice. With the new support gem, that would give you 4 Vaal Blade Vortexes. But if you use Shepherd of Souls, what will end up happening is you will have your first cast cost 6 souls, your second cast will cost 12 souls, your third cast will cost 18, and your fourth cast will cost 24. So what happened there is, by getting Shepherd of Souls, instead of getting to cast Vaal Blade Vortex twice with 2 repeats, so you get 4 Vaal Blade Vortexes, I got to cast it 4 times with 4 repeats, which is 8 Vaal Blade Vortexes all up at once. So the idea is we have a Blade Vortex character. Whenever we get to like a heavy hitting enemy, like for example a boss, we just get to barrage them with 8 Vaal Blade Vortexes all at once and just eviscerate them. That's the rough game plan. There's also the thought process of, let's say we wanted to play the new Hive and Rage Breach Keepers scaling mechanic where you're like in the Hive and you keep scaling up the difficulty. That's a situation where it would play very well to Blade Vortex, because we can be in the middle and we could summon a Blade Vortex over there, 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 and cover like all 4 entrances of the Hive where the monsters run in, and we could simultaneously be guarding all of the areas, if that makes sense. With the Blade Vortex carry, it gives you a lot of coverage. So that's kind of where my mind is. That's kind of where my thought process is. Now, the thing is about a character like this is it's in the duelist start, and I really never advise starting a spellcaster on League Start from the duelist start. So today, I'm going to do some practice and some testing. I'm going to test out Glad Bleed Slams, going to test out regular slams, get a feel for what the League Start best feeling situation is. And the plan is, I basically have a 2 to 3 step plan, which is start out with something simple like Bleed Slams or regular slams, because they're just strong League Start. Slams are quite good right out of the gate. And then I will transition into Relic of the Pact if it is cheaper than the Blade Vortex, or I'll go straight to Blade Vortex if I can go straight to Blade Vortex. But I have a Relic of the Pact as an in-between step in case this support gem is like really rare. Maybe it's like tied behind Uber Zeri at a 1% drop rate or something like that, where it's really rare, in which case I would need an in-between step. Now, the in-between step of Relic of the Pact Glad is honestly one of the strongest power characters you can get early on in a league. The main cost of Relic of the Pact Glad is this wand right here. It's going to be probably 5 to 10D. I mean, we'll see what people list these things for, but that's the main limiting factor, and I'll probably do some more budget setups of this character. This was a 10D build we did a video on, which I'll have a link in the description if you want to see. This character performed very well. It felt like just way out of place for 10D builds. Its power level is just much higher than what you can do for most other builds on that level of budget. But we'll do some budget setup testing today after we do some practice runs. But that's my rough plan for the league start: is Gladiator, starting out with some sort of Bleed Slams or regular slams, which we could start out as Slayer and Respec. That should be fine. And then the goal is to get to Vaal Blade Vortex. I'm really excited because I haven't played Blade Vortex, I think, ever. I know it's been like a somewhat popular skill here and there, depending on the league. I never got around to playing a Blade Vortex character, and I really like the interaction of Vaal skills, especially the combination of a Gladiator dual block combined with the Vaal Souls. Plus, we can go like Vaal skill effect duration plus area for like the quality of life angle. Or we could even go for the less souls per use and chance to recover soul cost along with it in Zeri's Reign. And that could give us some massive extra single target where we could probably get more than 8 Vaal Blade Vortexes all at the boss all at once. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. And another quick little aside that I want to add in here is one of my favorite things for dissolution builds that didn't exist previously. And that has to do with this thing up in the corner you see here called Blood Barrier. This is kind of a hard thing to set up a bit because it requires 8 corrupted items. That last line that says sacrifice of blood if at least 8 corrupted items. 8 corrupted items is a pretty big ask. You know, you have to vow a lot of items. It's not as bad as you would think because for example, there are items that are pretty go-to corrupted anyways. Like you can definitely easily get a corrupted carriage change. Nobody plays Impale Fizz, and Tropic Devastation is not hard to get corrupted. Untouched Soul is the most common drop from King of the Mist. Like there's some freebie corrupts, but then there's a few more expensive ones like Relic of the Pact when it's initially like early league. There's not a ton of these on trade. They're kind of expensive, so it's like you're risking a 5D, 10D item. As league goes on, it gets cheaper and cheaper. But the point is, you need to go for 8 corrupted items, so you have to risk bricking a few items in order to get your gear set up. But the upside is just insane. So the upside is all of your recovery from regen will give you a blood barrier. It's essentially like, let's say, a hit-based defensive layer on top of your life pool that regens based on your regen. It mirrors your regen. So my character right now, let's say it's regenning 1,000 life per second. This blood barrier will regen 1,000 life per second. It has the unique condition of you need to be on full life. That is why we're using this belt right here, which makes us count as full life. We also get the enemies have unlucky damage on us, so it is a little bit of a damage reduction. So what that ends up meaning is before they can even reserve our life, they have to get through the blood barrier. So this makes dissolution builds feel way better. You'll see the situation where my life doesn't get reserved at all here because we have the crazy defensive layer of like 90 plus lucky block on Glad. Then on top of that, they have to get through this blood barrier, which is constantly healing. And then on top of that, even if they do get through it and they get reserve some life, there's still the situation where we have 2 seconds where we can go without taking damage via block, and it just kind of works. I played this character and did some tests on a lot of T17 nasty mods, A-bombs, types of things, and it just kind of works. Even with that amount of crazy shotgun damage, it makes Dissolution, which is a build that normally can be a bit annoying sometimes, where it's like, oh, they reserve my life, I can't attack, and it gets rid of like 95% of the times when that happens, and it just feels pretty dang smooth. The only weakness to a character like this is ailments, which you can solve with 1 pair of boots. You can get poison immune, and you can get bleed immune, and you can get ailment immune pretty much with a pair of boots via like shock avoid plus storm shroud plus avoid bleed craft on boots plus implicit plus a couple avoid bleed tattoos, and then cannot be poisoned. Solving ignite, bleed, and poison is one of the more important things to do with dissolution, and it's basically just making a rare pair of boots. And then the number 2 thing you need to worry about is degen ground. That's really the ultimate singular weakness of this build. Now, degen ground is something that would feel bad on Relic of the Pact, because Relic of the Pact, you reserve the life. And so what happens is if you're standing on degen ground, they can reserve your life, and then you can cast, right? And like, let's say it's just perfectly timed where the life is reserved like 80, 90% or whatever, and you reserve the other 89% and you go down to 1 HP, and then it ticks and then you die. So there's like one situation with Relic of the Pact where you have a death condition. It requires you to not be paying attention to what's on the ground, but it can happen. However, if I do Vaal Blade Vortex and I'm not constantly deleting my life like this, and I still have my life completely unreserved, that just doesn't really happen. It's kind of one of those things where I literally have to sit on degen ground and watch my HP go all the way down to 0, which on normal builds, you would die in that case too. So I'm really kind of excited about this idea. I don't know how well Blade Vortex damage will scale. I know for sure Relic of the Pact is OP, so I will do like some setup showcase of some more realistic early game or early league items. Like Apostate isn't expensive later on in the league when I did this 10D challenge, but it's expensive early on when nobody's killed Uber. Cortex. So you know what I mean? Like we'll do replacement items like Calm's Heart. Stuff like that is really good early league. That is the rough game plan. So yeah, this is the build I'm really excited about League Start. I'm going to try to get out a build video with a bigger explanation, progression stuff, but I need to do some testing, and I wasn't really sure up until this point what I wanted to play, and now I have a good idea. I'm really excited about it. I'm hopeful that this skill, this support gem will enable playing some Vaal Blade Vortex. Maybe late game we could even include like explode. You know, that could be pretty fun to try to force an explode in a few different ways and have like a fizz angle approach to it. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, that's the plan for the league start. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching, Exiles. Take care and peace out. Have a good one.